Hey, good afternoon. I'm Mr. Danielson again. I want to talk about something that's pretty important that's going to be coming up this Friday. You know, Friday's April Fool's Day, and so there'll be a lot of joking going on, but there's one thing that's going to occur on Friday that's very, very serious, and I want us all to think about. During your advisory class on Friday, we're going to practice an earthquake drill. These are very important things to do in schools, especially in light of the situation that just occurred in Japan. Now, one of the staff members here at Gray has some experience with an earthquake in school, and so I invited Ms. Rojas here today to talk about that. You want to tell us about your experience with an earthquake?
Definitely. So when I was in 3rd grade, 8 years old, in Anchorage, Alaska, we had earthquake drills on a regular basis because Anchorage and most of Alaska is very much on an earthquake fault zone. So we had earthquake drills regularly, and it really came in handy because one year when I was, as I said, 8 years old and in 3rd grade, we had a very severe 7.1 earthquake in Anchorage. And we all knew that we were supposed to get under the desk, duck and cover, make sure that our bottoms were towards the windows so that if glass went shattering, it didn't go into our faces, into our eyes. And our teacher, who we all adored, was in front of her desk and facing our classroom, and she was trying to make sure that all the kids would be underneath their desks and secure and safe before she got underneath her desk. And while it was a very admirable thing to do, what happened next was one of the reasons why you duck and cover the minute you start to feel the earth shaking. Behind her desk, where she was standing, there was a freestanding bookcase that was probably 6 or 7 feet tall and filled with dictionaries and textbooks and all kinds of things. And as the ground kept shaking and the building was really rattling around, she was getting ready to go underneath her desk, and the bookcase tipped forward and knocked her out, knocked her head against the desk, and she kind of collapsed on top of the desk. And all of that took place in under a minute. It was a very scary time for us. We were very happy that she was fine. She had a little bit of a cut on her head. But had she been underneath the desk before that had occurred, before the bookcase had tipped, she would not have been hurt at all, or maybe just been grazed by a book that was falling. And so it's really important to follow the duck and cover. If you guys have seen any of the pictures from the tsunami and the earthquake in Japan, which I'm sure most of you have, they're very severe, and that was a much more severe earthquake than what happened to me when I was in 3rd grade. So it's really important that you guys do the duck and cover appropriately.
So it's very important that we have the drill. We don't want to scare anyone, but this is just good practice. And then start thinking about your practice at home and what you're going to do if you have an earthquake while you're at home. Thank you, Ms.
Yes,
Rojas.
you're welcome. Thanks.
Okay. We have a new guest arriving. So why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Noah
And?
Jude.
And Jude. So Noah and Jude are going to help me talk about what we do in an earthquake drill here at Gray for this Friday. So like I said, this Friday, the first couple minutes of class, I bet your teacher will review how you have an earthquake drill. Then at some point, and I'm going to tell the teachers, I think I'm going to say like at 1:10, everybody practices an earthquake drill. Now, we used to do things like blow horns all the time, or blow whistles or something, you know, where Peggy in the office would ring the bell 10 times. But that's not a very good thing to do. Why is that not a good thing to do?
Because then you can't hear like the teachers talking and telling you when it's safe and stuff like that.
I think your teacher's going to know when the building starts shaking. And if they're listening to bells, they might be counting bells, and you might be listening to bells too, instead of your teacher telling everybody to do what?
Duck and cover.
Duck and cover. Duck and cover is one of the most important things that you can do. Our friend here is going to show us a proper duck and cover. Yeah, this is probably closer to the size of his desk that he's going to be sitting at in his class, or a table. So he duck and cover. Where's his face? His face is away from what?
The ceiling and debris that are falling.
Yeah, and especially away from glass will probably break if we have a severe earthquake. So he's turning his face around so he doesn't face any of the glass. He's covering up his head. What are you doing with one of your arms?
I'm holding onto the table.
Why? You know why he's holding onto the table?
Because they can move around and
Yeah.
it shakes.
It's going to be moving around. He wants to move around with it if it's shaking. He doesn't want, if this was a table, for it to go flying across the room and him laying there and nothing to protect him. It's really an important thing. You did a good job. Come back up. Then the next thing that's most important after that is being absolutely quiet, because you're listening to the directions from your teacher, and they're going to tell you when it's safe to leave the building. So when all the shaking stops, as Ms. Rojas talked about, your teacher will guide you out of your room. You're going to have to be very quiet, because your teacher is going to be using an inside voice, because it's going to be so loud if we have a real earthquake. So it's going to stop, it's going to get very silent, and your teacher's going to start talking, and you're going to follow your teacher out of your room. Now that's going to be an interesting thing, and why is that an interesting thing to think about, leaving the room?
Because then the ceiling wouldn't collapse on you and you'd be outside.
Yeah, the reason you leave the building is to get out of the building, to make sure that the building's safe. We're safe if we're outside, but we have to be thinking about where we're going outside. So your teacher's going to be leading you out. They're not going to, if they see a hazard in the hallway, they might turn around and go a different direction. So you're going to have to always be listening to the teacher. What do you think about when you get outside? Where's the best place to stand outside?
Where nothing is over your head, like power lines,
Out in the open.
trees.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always better out in the open. Watch that you don't stand under a power line or something else that might fall on you when you get outside. We're a pretty good situation here. Now, let's say it's raining. We get outside, and it would happen to be the real deal. And we're not going to be able to come in the building because the building has to be checked to see if it's safe for you to come back in. Well then, Mr. Danielson, I would make a decision. I don't think we can go in the building, but we're all going to go to one of two places. We're either going to all go to the church, which is just down the street, or we're all going to walk to the Hillsdale Library. And I'll find out which is the safest place for us to go, and then as soon as we can get back in the building, we will do that. I will communicate that to your teachers, and so they'll communicate that to you. That's why when we're outside, you're going to have to continue to listen to find out what the instructions are. It'll take us a few minutes to make sure that everyone's out of the building. So some of the older 8th graders will probably going to have to help us with the students outside and keeping everybody calm if something like that happens. This Friday, the whole purpose is to practice that duck and cover, practice listening to your teacher, and practice exiting the building as quiet as you can. You did a great job with the fire drill. The best thing we can do is do a lot of practice and be serious about the practice. So let's practice this Friday. Thank you. And thanks to the students from the journalism class for this tape.